What's going on, YouTube? So the topic for the video today is going to be about how to manage capital within your Pokemon business, okay? A lot of businesses are not going to fail because they couldn't sell Pokemon. They're going to fail because they did not properly manage their cash flow, okay? Pokemon sells itself. If you have Pokemon, any sealed product, it is going to sell. That is not why a lot of businesses are going to be going out, right? Revenue is not the same as liquidity. You got to have capital, and we're going to talk about how you manage that, where it's all going, so that way you can be successful in your business if that's something that you are either in or looking at starting. So I want to talk about, first of all, capital is not a lump sum, right? You don't start your business, boom, here's my capital, I have money, I can buy inventory, start selling, and I'm good to go, right? It's not just inventory, it's a rotational system, right? It's a management system that you need to manage if you want to be successful. So just kind of quick outline, where your capital goes is outside of inventory. You've got things like ads, right? Google, Meta ads, all your shipping costs, right? Yes, I understand that most of us are going to be charging shipping on checkout, but you still need to provide all the packing materials. You still got to provide all the boxes and the tape and the labels and the ink and all those kinds of things, right? All of that is going to be taken out of somewhere, and that's going to be your initial capital, and then those are ongoing expenses that you're going to have. Taxes, right? Every dollar that you make, a portion of that is going to be going to paying your taxes on that profit, right? Now, of course, we're going to minus business expenses and all these deductions and credits and things like that, but that's still something to take into account. Chargebacks and refunds, right? Unfortunately, this is going to be part of the process, right? Some things may come and they may be damaged. You're going to have to handle that. They may get lost. You're going to have chargebacks, right? And I'll do another video on that. These are things that are just kind of an unavoidable part of the business. You're going to have to deal with it. There are ways to minimize and manage that and keep it as little as possible, but you can't eliminate it entirely. So that's an expense, right? Operating overhead. You're going to have any software that you need to use, right? So I use Shopify. I have to pay to use that platform. I have various apps that I use because I kind of integrate it into selling on a couple different other platforms that are all brought into Shopify that require use of third-party add-ons. QuickBooks linking between that for bookkeeping, all that. All those are extra $20, $30 fees each month for these different platforms. So there's some overhead even if you're online only, right? Platform selling fees. If you're an eBay seller where you're dealing with 13% fees all the time, right? Not even to mention if you're going to be promoting any of your listings. So all these can be small percentages individually, but they will compound together and will eat into your profits. So you need to take them into account, right? Now, there's, I would say, like 4 capital buckets of where your funds are going to be going to, right? So rotational capital, that's going to be the first one. This is going to be your fast-moving product, right? These are going to be your popular booster bundles, your ETBs, booster boxes, things like that. Things where as soon as you get it, it's being shipped out the door, right? It's getting picked up from whatever platform you're selling on, and you're moving it out, right? So that capital is moving quick. You spent money to get it, it came in, and it's going right back out again. Then you have your anchor capital, right? This is more of your strategic, slower product. So, for example, say you buy a collection that has a lot of older sets. You probably paid a pretty penny for it, right? But there's some strategic value in it. Because it's not something that people see too often, when you run on your ads, people may click on it, right? Because like, oh, hey, what's that? I haven't seen that in a long time. They click on it, and to get them to your site, and maybe they buy something else. Not that item that they looked at, because say, say for example, it's like, 151 ETB, right? It's kind of an eye catcher. People don't see that too often. It's got a hefty price point, so they click on it, check it out to look at it. Okay, well, I'm not getting that, but maybe I'll go buy that 151 booster bundle, right? Or you know what? Let me pick up a prismatic, whatever, right? So you have that slower capital, but you can use it strategically, but it's going to sit there longer, right? But that's part of the balancing game that you got to play. You have opportunity capital, right? So if you're one of those that is lucky and has distribution and you'd actually get something, you know the game of well, if you want to get this, you need to buy that, right? So maybe the opportunity comes in, your rep hits you up and says, hey, I can get you a case or two of whatever, but I need you to take some of this other stuff, product ABC, if you want that, right? Well, if you don't have the capital, that's a missed opportunity. Okay, so you need to have some money where it's kind of earmarked for when something comes up. Like for example, my case, last week a guy hit me up and he had a $4,000 collection that he was looking to offset. So if I didn't have the money set aside available, that would have been an opportunity that I missed. I'm picking up a $5,000 collection later on this afternoon. So if I don't have the capital for that, that's going to be an opportunity that I miss, right? I would love to have that stuff, sorry, but I don't have the funds available to do it, and that would be horrible, right? So make sure you have capital available so you don't miss when opportunities like that arise. And then the fourth bucket would be your safety capital, right? So this is going to be covering your chargebacks, processor holds, right? If you get a chargeback, that money's on hold. Well, it's taken from you and put on hold, right? So for example, I have one right now for $1,500, right? That money is on hold. Hopefully I'll win that. I think I have a decent chance at winning that one. But in the meantime, that's $1,500 that was pulled out from me, set aside, and it's been that way for about a month so far, while we're just waiting for the banks to do whatever it is that they need to do. If I win it, great, I'll get that money back. But if I don't, that's $1,500 gone. And even during this whole month, that's $1,500 that cost me to get product, sold it, that money was taken, that capital's gone, the product is gone, right? I do not have that available right now to do other things like pay for certain expenses or buy more product. So if you're not properly prepared for those kinds of things, an issue like that, depending on your particular situation, could really cause you a huge problem, right? Now, I would say one of the biggest dangers for a lot of people going into this business is dead capital, right? So you think, hey, you know what, this set is going to be fire, I'm going to get a whole bunch of this stuff, and you invest all this money into something, and then you either can't move it or the price drops on you, right? So I know in the beginning, say for example, we'll take a recent example, the Charizard X UPC, right? He was like, wow, look at this thing, it's really awesome. I think, if I recall correctly, the market was like well over $200 on it. So if you said, you know what, I think I'm going to try to put a whole bunch of money into picking up these boxes, and you did that, and you were able to move them very quickly, well, the price dropped pretty quick on them. And then you could find yourself in a position where you invested all this capital into something, the price floor changed on you, and now you're kind of in a pickle, right? So you have to be careful. Even if you think something is going to be really popular, you need to look at what's my available capital right now. Can I take this hit if the price changes on me, right? So kind of ask yourself, if whatever it is I'm buying, and the amount that I'm buying it for, and the amounts that I'm buying it for, if it were to sit for 90 days, would I be okay with that? If the answer is yes, then okay, maybe it's not a bad play for you. If the answer is no, then you really probably need to think hard about, is this the right product to get? Is this the right price to get it at? And is this the right quantity of it to buy, right? Because it may be something where, again, it could be an anchor capital type product, right? So maybe you say, you know what, yes, it's going to move a little slower, and that's okay, because there's a strategic value in having a particular item, right? Or, like in my case right now, I'm allocating a lot of capital into picking up some 151s. I'm buying them for more than I would like, but I believe that I have the available capital to do this, that the price will move up on those, and I'm going to be all right on that. And so far, I've been doing okay on that. But that's something that you need in your business to kind of ask yourself, right? Now, the next thing I want to talk about is cash flow versus profit, right? It is very possible that you could be profitable and still broke, okay? Revenue doesn't equal profit. So you want to make sure that when you're selling items, taking the money in and getting that back, right? Again, you need to account for the fees and everything being taken out, and then what you have left is what do you do with that now, right? So you got to really kind of take everything into consideration that I've been talking about when you're deciding what it is you're going to carry, how many units you're going to carry it for, and even that comes down to the price that you're going to move it at, right? Maybe you say, you know what, I need the liquidity, so I might have to drop the price a little bit in order to get more velocity going, in order to get that capital freed back up, right? Because you can have something that is moving very quickly, high velocity, that's very low profit. You could have something that has very, very slow velocity with very high profit, right? So don't get too caught up in necessarily like the margin of the item. You have to kind of look at it within the whole ecosystem, right? Having the right inventory at the right time could make a big difference, right? So kind of what I've talked about before of you can buy a set that's very, very hype in the beginning, and it turns out to maybe not be so hype, right? But we've seen it before where something comes out, price is way up here, market quickly drops to here, but then there's a slow recovery back up to somewhere in the middle again, right? Just say something was $100 a release, dropped down to 75 2 weeks later, and then settled up at 85, right? If you are in a pickle with capital because you bought all this stuff, right? Say you bought it for $90, all these items. Because you're like, yeah, it's $100 on pre-release, it's going to be going up higher, whatever. So you buy a whole bunch of it, then the floor drops on you. So you start panic selling. Oh my God, I got to get this money back before it drops even more. You panic sell it at $75, $80, right? You're taking $10, $15 hit on every single box. Actually more because of the fees and everything you have to pay. But say $10, $15 lost in every box, right? And then the next month, does it slow climb and it settles around 85, right? If you panic sold because you needed that inventory or needed that capital really, really, really badly, that put you in a position where you had a panic sell, right? Versus perhaps, if you were able to hold on a little bit longer, it's like, I have capital aside, I can still get my cash flow going, I can still pay my invoices, I can still pick up this collection, yada, yada, yada. Maybe you don't have to panic sell at that $75, $80 mark. Maybe you're able to wait for it to move back up to 85, settle at 90, and at least kind of break even on it, right? That's what I'm talking about with flow, velocity, and why it's important to have safety capital, right? A lot of businesses, like I said, will fail, not because they couldn't sell the product, but because they didn't have cash to continue churning the machine. I know a lot of people talk about churn and burn, right? And that's true, right? That's your high velocity product. But don't think that everything you pick up has to be churn and burn. Unless you just have zero extra capital, zero extra, funds that you can use to either pay for emergencies or, missing all these opportunities. If you're able to do that, great. But if not, then you're going to have to churn and burn for a little bit. But just kind of understand this is how the whole flow of it works, right? Again, to reiterate, you could be profitable and still be broke, right? So inventory matters. You got to balance out slow velocity movers, but strategic, and your high velocity, continuing capital and cash flow. Ads, I'll do a video on ads. That's going to be something that is a variable cost. It can go up, it can go down. Your return ad spend can change. So that's something that you need to be prepared for. I'll do a separate video talking about ads. That's kind of a bigger thing. But capital management determines who will survive long term. Okay, if you're just flipping really quick, but you're not managing capital well, you're probably going to be in for a world of hurt when things start slowing down, right? So if there's one thing, just kind of remember, the stores that survive are the ones that manage capital best, not necessarily who can just move the most product. So that's it for this video. If you have any questions, please leave it in the comments below. I will continue to make videos about these topics as it relates to operating, owning, or starting a Pokemon business. Take care. I'll see you guys next time.